The Grave has plenty of noteworthy behind-the-scenes facts about it. Not only were there conflicting viewpoints on the story's origin, but the production itself features some surprising tidbits. It's a well-regarded episode that many fans might remember. Is it one of the best of the third season, though? Let's take a look and see. Opening the show is the shooting of infamous gunslinger Pinto Sykes. He's gunned down by 8 townspeople and taken to the local jail where he dies soon after. A couple days later, Connie Miller pulls into town and finds out about Pinto's demise. Miller was hired by the town to track down Sykes and take him out. However, there's a common question as to if Miller was afraid to confront the gunman. As Connie enters the local saloon, some of the townspeople inform him of Pinto's last words. Sykes said he waited for Miller in Albuquerque, even sending out word where he was, but the bounty hunter never came around. In a final threat, he mentioned that if Connie ever goes up to his grave, he'll rise up from the dirt and grab him. Pinto's sister, Ione, enters the bar for a moment to grab a bottle as she grieves the loss of her brother. She also warns Connie about visiting the grave and ominously leaves. Some of the men in the saloon, Johnny, Rob, and Steinhardt, bet $20 in gold each that Miller won't go up to the grave that night. Angry that his honor is being called into question, Connie accepts the bet and leaves for the graveyard. All he has to do is stick a knife in the ground by Sykes' grave as proof of his visit, but when he gets to the cemetery, Ione is just leaving, again spooking Miller by saying her brother is waiting for him. Connie is clearly nervous as he steps towards his enemy's resting place. The Grave was one of 2 installments shot for the second season that got held over until season 3. One of the giveaways is that, while it features the season 3 opening, it doesn't show the episode title and other credits after the first commercial break. As I talked about in my review of the third season's premiere, 2, The Grave was supposedly set to take that spot at one point. The writer-director of both episodes? Montgomery Pittman. Pittman said he derived this plot from a ghost story his father used to tell on windy nights. The basic premise of that story was pitched to Twilight Zone producer Buck Houghton, and we eventually got The Grave. One of the actors in this episode, James Best, who played Johnny Robb, remembered things differently though. He said he pitched a whole bunch of stories to Pittman at one point as ideas to turn into episodes of television. The story for The Grave was supposedly among them. Best recalls that if any of the stories were produced, Pittman said he would bring him in to act. From Best's perspective, the writer-director apparently honored that promise here. There was also someone who wrote into Rod Serling that Pittman ripped the idea off from a Russian tale. Serling dismissed this after talking to the writer and hearing his explanation. Whatever the truth is, I'm probably leaning toward Pittman's versions of events. It gave us a pretty popular episode. The acting from this cast is great. In addition to Best, Ellen Willard, Strother Martin, William Shelley, and Stafford Repp all turn in good performances. We even get legendary Western actor Lee Van Cleef as Steinhardt, which was a real treat. Oscar winner Lee Marvin as the episode's lead, Connie Miller, is fantastic himself. He convincingly created a character that had the audience wondering if he really was telling the truth about not finding Sykes while out on the hunt. Was he actually afraid of Pinto? His facial expressions and delivery don't give us a certain answer. From accounts by a few who were there, including cinematographer George T. Clemens, Marvin was actually visibly drunk the first time on set. However, he apologized to the crew the next day and was said to have given a more than solid full day's work. Marvin, Repp, Shally, and Best all popped up in other Twilight Zone episodes. Following a few creepy distractions, Connie stabs Pinto's grave and turns around to leave. We then see him pulled off screen and fade to the next day. Ione and the men from the bar go to the gravesite since Miller never returned the previous evening. They arrive to see him lying beside Sykes' grave, dead. The knife he had with him has been stabbed through his coat. Steinhardt explains that the wind must have blown Connie's coat over the grave, and when he stood up to walk away, the scare of a tug that pulled him down spooked him so much that his heart couldn't take it, and he died of fright. But Ione mentions the strong winds that were blowing last night weren't flowing in the correct direction to place Miller's coat over the grave. The sister maniacally laughs as the story ends on an eerie note. Ellen Willard really did do a great job portraying the haunting Ione Sykes. From when she first shows up with a heavy wind accompanying her to the last shot, there's an off-putting quality to that character. It's helped by the production design, especially at the graveyard that showed her walking up to Connie in a hood and cloak, menacingly blowing in the wind. Speaking of the wind, there are a couple scenes where the actors had to perform ADR since the wind machine on set covered up their lines. It doesn't affect the performances all that much, but it is noticeable. The last little thing I'll mention is that I really liked Rod's on-screen narrator appearance. It's always better when you know he was on set and they don't hide a blatant cut in a whip pan. Here, he walks out of a barn door at the end of a decently long moving shot, a small detail I admired. I don't love the ending of The Grave. There just seems to be something missing from it. I'm not sure exactly what would have improved it, but I feel like we needed something more than an over-explanation by Steinhardt and a light suggestion by Ione. That's the one thing that holds it back from reaching best of the season status. Everything before that hit all the marks for me though, and I'd still recommend it. Go ahead and visit this grave whenever you can, but be careful. When you're least expecting it, a hand can reach up through the ground and pull you in to the Twilight Zone.